China has no problem sacrificing its people, and I don't think Trump has that much of a problem sacrificing us.
And that's good? Dad, is there an opinion there? Is he neutral on that? On sacrificing us? This is his argument right now. This is like, no bullshit, no exaggeration. This is exactly what he's saying. What is Asmongold's take on these tariffs?
This guy,
is he
thinks
pro?
125% is too low. He's thinking about somewhere around 400.
What happens if we go into a full-scale trade war?
Look, it's really ugly. This president won the election based on reducing costs, but he's enacted the largest tax increase we've seen in over 50 years. And you know who's going to pay the price? Americans shopping at Walmart, Americans shopping at Costco. We don't know the purpose of these tariffs. The only thing we do know is he's planning on taking...
People don't know the purpose of the tariffs. They're obviously to negotiate better trade deals. How do you not know the purpose of them? He said the purpose. Everybody, like, how...
Really? I swear I've heard him say many times that they're non-negotiable.
What?
He said that we're doing the tariffs to bolster domestic manufacturing over and over and over again.
Tax revenue from Americans paying more at Walmart and Costco and putting that into tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans.
How do you not know it's about negotiating better trade deals? I guess the stuff about domestic manufacturing is just false, or what?
It's totally gross, and it's putting us on the brink of a recession. It could cost us tons of money.
I don't see how you can make an argument that this is beneficial for the wealthiest Americans when 90-something% of the stocks or something like that are owned by 8% of the population.
I don't think that's what he said. What he said, he was just repeating what the administration has said, which is that they're going to, Trump expects to raise like $600 billion from these tariffs, and he wants to use that money to offset a tax break that he wants to get done with this upcoming reconciliation package. This is just straight from Trump's mouth. He's just repeating their intention.
90-something% of the stocks or something like that are owned by 8% of the population. So how is it that 8% of the population that are the richest people that have this massive amount of the stocks, how is this beneficial for rich people? I feel like, if anything, this is a massive L for rich people.
Well, if anything, rich people will be more insulated from the negative externalities of these tariffs, of the negative costs of these tariffs, because they're going to be given a greater tax break than, like a family making $50,000 a year with if Trump's tax breaks this time around are like what they were his first time around, they're going to save like $300 a year or something like that.
Manufacturing jobs as we get into this trade war. It's a really disturbing policy. I hope he backs off.
But Kevin, he said there's a lot of...
Is that an accurate number? Yeah. I mean, and also, like, well, here's a good way to look at it. If you look at the stock market and you see Tesla going up $200 after Donald Trump won the presidency, I don't see how anybody can tell me that stocks are real when Tesla goes up that much just because Donald Trump becomes the president. Really, it's a bullshit number to begin with.
Deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating.
There it is. All right.
400%. I do business with China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never
abided trade organization.
By any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades.
Yeah, what the like? Why are you going to play against somebody who's map hacking? Why are you going to play against somebody who's aimbotting? If these people are going into if they're going into the negotiation and they're just breaking the rules, then what the are you going to do?
So you go about punishing them by, like, taxing Americans, essentially taxing Americans at a higher rate. I think the last estimate that I saw for how much these tariffs are going to raise costs for the average American family, it's something like you can expect to pay $4,500 more as a result of these, as a direct result of these tariffs.
They cheat, they steal IP.
That's not really like sticking it to China, in my opinion, right?
I can't litigate in their courts. They take
That's another thing. Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you insulted me, we're walking down the street and you walk by me and then you insult me and then I turn around and punch myself in the nuts. Like, yeah, you like that? I'll do it again.
See, people have no recourse in order to do anything when they get taken advantage of by China. You can't trust them. Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, like, it's obvious. Rich people have known about the tariffs before anyone was still at the top. When prices dips, they bought more. Now prices increase and they're richer. Sure, of course they're going to go up. Like if the stock market goes up, their money's going to go up. I mean, that's the way it works with anything. Like that's not a rich people thing. That's the way the numbers work.
No, the person in your chat was talking about how it sure seems like some people had advanced tip off of what was going to happen because you saw these massive purchases like 15 minutes before the announcement was made.
Technology, they steal it, they
I
manufacture.
feel like he's just missing the point of the comment that I was just reading, but
Sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have.
This is it. This is the reason. This is a massive amount.
I mean, that is a problem.
Huge, huge amount.
Nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning.
By punishing me, by punishing you, by punishing us, we will bear the burden of these tariffs. If this mechanism somehow found a way to make China directly pay us or whatever, then that would be an understandable response, right? Like that would be like a more appropriate response. But he's punishing China by punishing us. Like everybody's getting punished here.
The average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe. Can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
It's short-lived. There will be.
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning.
Kevin can't say this, but I'm going to say this. This is the truth.
Oh boy, get ready to clip this. Whatever he says right now is going to be a really poorly aged thing in about 2 months. I'm calling it now.
Necessary sacrifices, and Trump is willing to make them. That's the reason.
The sacrifice is my fucking bank account. He's doing the meme. He's doing the Shrek meme. What's the Shrek meme? Some of you may die. This is his argument right now. This is like no bullshit, no exaggeration. This is exactly what he's saying. We'll see if the American public agrees. I tend to think no. I don't think they're going to agree with this.
And so is China too, by the way. China has no problem sacrificing its people, and I don't think Trump has that much of a problem sacrificing us.
Americans' timeline, what they can actually.
And that's good? Dad, is there an opinion there? Is he neutral on that? On sacrificing us?
Survive. There's people right now who can't survive.
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
What do you think?
You know, here's the thing, though. This is the perfect.
That's not what China's saying. China's out here saying, like, we will fight to the last man, to the last woman and elderly person and child. We will fight this fight for centuries if we have to, is what China's saying. And Kevin Leary's like, no. Xi's going to be on a plane next week.
Example of, I understand how.
China's posting Mao clips. They're posting clips of Ronald Reagan. That's how upside down things have become.
It would benefit you, but that's not what the American people voted for. They voted because
the American people didn't vote for tariffs. Really? I think that the American people absolutely voted to minimize China's control on manufacturing and to relocate manufacturing to the U.S.
I don't think that American voters listen. I think that people, they went into the 2024 election with the same attitude that we heard from so many people in 2016 and 2020, which is take Trump seriously, but not literally. So people heard him talking about the tariffs, and they assumed that he was talking a bunch of shit to create leverage in order to obtain more favorable trade conditions with our international partners. I think that's what probably 80-90% of voters assumed. And you can see it in the opinion polls now. This policy is deeply unpopular. It is for sure the least popular thing that he has done in his presidency. We're seeing his approval rating dip down to 45, which is like now we're in first term territory. Honeymoon is completely over. If Americans signed up for his tariff policy, then why is his approval rating slipping at an alarming rate? Like his approval rating in the aggregate, when you plot it on a chart, looks like an alligator opening its mouth right now. So I don't think that Americans signed up for this. I think Americans assumed he was going to do the same thing he did during his first term, which is more targeted tariffs, less disruptive, and they assumed it was all bluster for a negotiating tactic.
I feel like this was a core principle that basically everybody that voted for Trump voted for.
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, like broadly, the idea of bringing manufacturing back and less offshoring of jobs to places like China or Mexico, I think broadly people agreed with that, but not this mechanism of dealing with it. That's not what they agreed to.
Actually shocked that this is even being discussed.
Trump said within 24 hours, costs will come down.
Trump supporters, by the way,
Yes.
you're talking about.
Well,
Especially.
Trump said that.
I don't know.
And there were people in
What do you mean you don't know? He said, day one, I'm going to bring your energy costs down. I'm going to bring your groceries down. I'm going to bring the prices down. That's what he said. Day one. Day one. He said that over and over and over again during the campaign.
the middle who said, okay, I'm going to vote for that. He also said he'd end the wars. That's not happening. We still have supply chain issues.
That's true. She's right about the war thing.
I just filled up my tank yesterday. Gas prices are not down. Rent.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I saw gas was down. I mean, I guess.
I think she is wrong about that, right? Aren't gas prices down? Pretty sure they are.
It's probably regional, but at least here, gas is definitely.
In fact, March was actually, I think, the best month in terms of reducing inflation in many years. We actually saw decent numbers just actually really good numbers this morning when it came to March. However, everybody expects that those numbers are going to reverse. That trend is going to be reversed as these tariffs persist. It is inevitable inflationary pressure on prices when you're doing universal tariffs on imports and you're doing 145% tariffs on our third largest trading partner. Those prices will come up in April, more in May, more in June.
Way down.
Groceries prices are not down. And when people are looking at what's happening in the markets and they see the uncertainty and they see their 401ks, I had to listen to my mom talk about her investments on Sunday and she's nervous. I get it. On top.
That's the other day. Like, yeah, gas is down because the gas companies expect the economy to worsen and fewer people to buy gas. Yeah, that's another part of this equation as well.
On top of that, though, don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have a vote on a budget that is going to be also another series of cuts for the American people.
The House passed that this morning, and so now do they go into conference? And so, like, when the Senate passes a bill, a version of a bill, and then the House passes like a slightly different version of the same bill, or vice versa. First the House passes, then the Senate. They go into what's called conference, and it's basically like they negotiate like a middle ground between the two versions of the bill, and then that is the bill that gets voted on ultimately. That's what they're trying to do with the reconciliation package right now. The House, after failing to whip the votes last night, there was a bit of drama. They got there this morning, but it was a very tight margin. They passed it 216 to 214. They couldn't have lost any more votes. If they lost one more vote, it would have been deadlocked and it wouldn't have passed. And now we got to see where the Senate is at. What I think Mike Johnson is trying to promise is 1.5 trillion in spending cuts. You know, good luck with that. I don't know if I've been saying for weeks now, like, I don't envy Mike Johnson. He's going to have a really tough job in the House. In the Senate, they're kind of more grown up and they're more unified. You really kind of only have to worry about Rand Paul as far as Senate Republicans go. In the House, he's got a lot of people that are perfectly willing to blow up the entire negotiation if you don't seriously cut the federal budget.
And a little bit of gamesmanship, as you were saying, so that we can sort of pay for the tax cuts for folks like Kevin. Then we've also got DOGE, and we've got the impact that the DOGE cuts and the cuts in jobs are actually having on economies around the country. So it's when you layer all that together. And I think what you saw over last weekend is people don't want to wait anymore. People are angry. I mean, we saw incredible turnout over the weekend in rallies all across the country. We're seeing it in the polls. People are frustrated.
I want to bring this into real terms as well. I mean, I'm an everyday person, I'm going to tell you that right now. And so when I think about how much things cost, I want to know things I'm going to afford or not afford. Listen to what somebody who's a furniture store owner in Kansas had to say about, say, the price of a sofa.
With the 54%, if we sell a sofa for $1,000, we will have to sell it for $1,299. And if it's 104%, then that sofa will be over $2,000. I don't think they can afford it.
Zolan, that's a real figure for a lot of people. A $2,000 couch as opposed to what they thought they were going to spend?
Yeah, that means higher prices for average Americans. And by the way, that's what Republicans in Congress right now are also
Shoes are another thing. Shoes are about to see an enormous spike in prices.
worried about here. Hearing from their constituents at town halls and as the weeks go by of
Buy American? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like that's clearly what the indication is.
These are American. These are American companies. That's an American company that guy's working for. That's an American mattress company. What does he mean buy American? It's American companies that are going to be paying these tariffs. He's like, oh, just buy American and you won't have to eat the cost. No, they have to import the materials to make their products. They are going to pay those tariffs and then they're going to pass the price down to us. That's how this works.
And this is what people voted for Trump to do. You might not like the outcome of this, but this is what people voted for.
Well, technically, like, listen, if you elect a politician and then the politician does something that the overwhelming majority of the country don't like that outcome, there's going to be consequences for that one way or the other. Let's get to these midterms. Let's see what that looks like.
prices go up.
Yeah, to the previous speaker's point, Americans, in a very broad sense, voted for lower prices, or rather like more spending power in whatever form it takes, whether it's lower prices or higher wages to offset inflation. Either one will do. In fact, the latter is more preferable than a deflationary spiral. But that's what people voted for. They voted for the kind of prosperity they felt in 2019 pre-COVID. That's what they wanted to go back to. They did not vote for paying $2,000 for a mattress that normally cost $1,000. They did not vote for that. I mean, technically they did, but I don't think they understood that Trump was serious about the universal tariffs.
That economic frustration then turning into political backlash against them and the administration.
So Kevin's point is that it's short-lived. What's your reaction?
Well, I mean, it's up to debate whether it's actually going to be short-lived at this point. Consumer prices going up. Again, economists say U.S. importers do pay the price of tariffs. That then goes down to the consumer. Also, one thing that is consistent right now is uncertainty. There's uncertainty right now, and this gamble that the administration is doing that the average American will be able to weather through any type of economic frustration is better.
They won't. These tariffs will damage tons of businesses, and it'll probably ruin people's lives. Guaranteed that's going to happen. I don't think there's anybody that could deny that. Of course it's going to happen. So did COVID? Yeah, of course.
On the idea that you'll then have investment.
So that's bad, right? Sounds bad. Are we going to get a commentary? Like, that seems bad, right? Like
in American manufacturing. Tough to pair investment with uncertainty.
So where does consumer confidence factor into all this? If people are nervous about what they can or cannot afford, how about that short-lived proposition?
I mean, it's plummeting. And I think the only way we're going to restore it is if Congress takes back the car keys from the president and takes away his power to impose the largest tax cut in 50 years with the stroke of a pen. That's the only way that people are going to have confidence. If he announces a series of deals tomorrow, what's going to happen? In a month from now, nobody's going to have any confidence that this is going to go away. As long as he has, basically the gun on the Resolute desk, American consumers, businesses are all at risk as long as it's there.
Oh, we're talking about, obviously, sofas, but how about iPhones, which so many people have? There's this notion of making it in the United States. Talk to me about that, Kevin. What is the likelihood that that could actually happen? There are people who are saying, fat chance.
Moving manufacturing back to the U.S. takes a long time, but I'm still focused on...
And they would have to raise their prices substantially. The $1,200 Pro model or whatever, that's going to cost $1,800, $2,000. And I don't think Americans are going to be comfortable with that bargain. They're not going to be like, oh, well, you know what? It's made in America, so I don't mind paying $600, $700 more for this product. That's just not going to happen.
Two aspects. I mean, you have to differentiate the tariffs negotiated between countries, because the Eurozone just 48 hours ago said something remarkable. For the first time in decades, we're willing to go to 0 on 0. That means they open up all markets to all products, all services. That's a huge win. So forget about Israel or Thailand or Cambodia. We're talking about one of the largest economies on earth saying, okay, we get the joke. You want to sell cars? You want to sell a Corvette in Berlin? We're okay at 0. We've never had that before. So let's call that a huge win. We haven't done the deal yet, but let's get the German people over here to start negotiating that. Agriculture.
That's clearly why Trump did the tariffs. I mean, I feel like
he just said 10 minutes ago that he did it to bring jobs back to America. He's doing the thing that everybody's criticizing MAGA for doing right now, where it's like you take out the one chip and you put in the new chip, and then you take out that chip and you put the other one back in. And it's like, depending on the day, the MAGA cope about the tariffs is he's bringing jobs back. He's getting a better trade deal. He's bringing jobs back. He's getting a better trade deal. He's bringing jobs back, getting a better trade deal. It's like they've oscillated back and forth between those two things like 7 times in the last 3 weeks. He just said 10 minutes ago that the purpose of the tariffs was to bring jobs back.
Obviously.
And now he's like, obviously it's to get a better trade deal.
Win.
It's like, come on, bro.
Let's get the German people over here to start negotiating that. Agriculture.
That was like the nature. That was like the fundamental nature of what Orwell is a name that's invoked too much. Orwellian is a term I think that is a bit, people use a bit too loosely. But this is what he was talking about. The concept of doublethink and doublespeak in 1984 was precisely this. It was, if you could get the government, or if you could get some authoritarian regime, if they can get the people to hold 2 contradictory beliefs in their head at the same time, then they've done their job. That's what he called doublethink and doublespeak. It's exactly this. This is what he was referring to.
Clearly why Trump did the tariffs. I mean, I feel like obviously that's why.
Britain will go to 0 on 0. Canada will love to do energy 0 on 0. So that's a huge win for him. Huge. He hasn't even taken advantage of it yet.
I thought, Kevin, part of it,
they play fair. The problem is that I think that there are a lot of things that exist beyond tariffs. And that's kind of what they were talking about, how there's like other types of restrictions that are naturally beneficial for the companies that are there, or naturally exclusionary for the companies that are not there. And I think they also want to break down those barriers as well, and not just the monetary numerical barriers too. Regulations, yeah, exactly. That's fake news. Really? I mean, I feel like that'd be common sense. Of course they would do that. I don't know. I mean, I bet that's probably what's happening because that's what makes the most sense. Maybe it's not what's happening, but usually what makes the most sense is probably what's happening.
I'm curious from your perspective, and everyone, if one of the biggest assets of a negotiation is leverage, if he has said they're here to stay, does that remove some of the ability for him to negotiate in the long run with these countries?
Well, I'm trying to differentiate.
No, because he's lying. He just says it all. The problem with somebody like Trump, and this is a big issue that I think a lot of people have with him, is that
he lying?
Everything that he says isn't necessarily true. Like, he will go back on pretty much anything he says if he feels like it will be advantageous for him to do so.
In a normal world, that would be disqualifying. There is a baseline level of hyperbole, omission, exaggeration that's kind of baked into spin. That's kind of baked into politics. Everybody knows that. But when you have a politician, particularly the leader of the free world, who operates with this level of dishonesty, which I just want to play this back because
everything that he says isn't necessarily true. Like, he will go back on pretty much anything he says if he feels like it will be advantageous for him to do so.
That is, to me, that represents everything that people hate about politics. And it's just the worst form of that. This man said literally everything he says he will go back on if it serves him politically. That is what people hate about politics. So in a normal universe, this would be a searing indictment. It would be more or less disqualifying for a political candidate. So the fact that Asmon finds his way to supporting Trump despite this is, I think quite telling, I would say.
Like, for better or for worse. You don't see a bigger picture behind it? Yeah, I think that that's definitely what's happening, is that people look at this as a surface level and they don't think about like what's like plan or like step 2 or 3 or 4 of like.
Well, which is it, Asmon? Is it he's trying to bring jobs back to America, or he's trying to leverage for more favorable trade conditions?
Like something like this, because I don't think that the plan ever was to just put these huge tariffs on these countries and then just leave them on the countries indefinitely. Like,
really? That's what he was saying. He was saying it's good policy. He's saying that is the mechanism to bring back jobs to America, which it won't. But that's what Trump has always said. That's what he's currently saying. He says we need to bring jobs back to America. Countries have been ripping us off for too long. We need to start making America again, American again, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the permanent universal tariffs are how he proposed to accomplish that goal.
I didn't think that was what was going to happen. And it seems like that's not what's happening.
Yes, it does. It definitely seems like he is committed to the tariffs. Otherwise, he would have pulled the tariffs yesterday, which he did not do. He just brought the rate down. He reduced the tariffs, but we still have a universal tariff, 10% on all imports, and now it's fucking 145% on imports from China. I don't know what he means when he says it seems like he's backing off. Not to me.
Between the trade non-parity. For an example, you talk about Thailand. I have a company that makes greeting cards. Hewlett-Packard laser cutters making greeting cards in Thailand because labor is cheap, and we FedEx them every day here. They only have an economy of 35 billion, and the deficit is 200 billion. That country will never have trade parity with us. It's too small. But we can go to zero tariffs with them. And I'm telling you, there's a difference between getting everybody at 0 on 0, which is free trade, basically, which for Trump would be a huge win. That call 48 hours ago when the Eurozone said, okay, uncle.
Completely unfettered free trade would lead to even more jobs being outsourced to different countries.
We'll go to 0. Take that win. It's a huge win. Now, getting trade deficits settled, that's going to take decades because we are the largest economy on Earth by a factor of 2.5 times. We're always going to have deficits.
Well, it's also like really important to keep in mind that like the third and fourth economy is like vastly smaller than China as well. Like it's pretty much like us, China, and then like I think like Germany or some other country below that. Like the U.S., like
China's still like 3 times below us, right? Like, is it close, really? Well, I guess it's a matter of efficiency, right? So like in 2024, the United States had the largest economy in the world with a gross domestic product of just under $29 trillion. China had the second largest economy at around $18 trillion. But their population is also 4 times bigger than the United States. So if there was perfect parity in terms of population, then yeah, we would be like fifth. I guess it's to say that we're like 4 or 5 times more efficient or productive. Might be the better word. China population 2025. Should be like around 1. It's 1.4. Jesus. China's population growth. I thought they were having problems with population growth because of the one-child policy, right? Are there a lot of immigrants in China? Oh, I guess they are leveling out a little bit. Looks like they did level out starting around 2019. I remember growing up, it was like 1.2 billion. Yeah, when I was okay. Never mind.
China is the only country that is even.
Isn't that why we do GDP per capita? Yeah, that would be the exact metric we're looking for here. So like US GDP per capita versus China. US GDP per capita is significantly higher than China's, reflecting a larger and more developed economy in the United States.
Close to the United States. Is it UK and is it Japan? Okay, yeah, I forgot. I looked at it like 2 days ago. I didn't remember exactly.
What about countries with the highest GDP per capita? Countries, Luxembourg just crushing it. Luxembourg, Switzerland, Ireland has a higher GDP per capita than us. Singapore, Norway, Iceland, then the United States. Who's at the very bottom? The bottom countries are Cuba, American Samoa, Syria, Zanzibar, Eritrea, North Korea is dead last. Get f***ed, nerds.
Zoom out because I do think it's worth noting that there are many in Congress as well as the business community that are questioning if
ChilledChaos, did I miss you for 21 months? Thank you so much, buddy.
The White House and specifically the president is even ready and in a position to negotiate.
The Home Depot.
So this was last night. I guess they were. What a surprise.
They made a comment.
I mean, I feel like that did not age well.
Depot.
So this was last night. Well,
Well, I guess they were talking at the cabinet meeting about how they're going to be taking all these meetings with different countries or whatever, but no, he seemed pretty stuck on the 10% tariffs no matter what.
I guess they were. What a surprise.
They made a comment like saying something like, I'm quoting here, I don't understand the goddamn formula. I believe he's been poorly advised by his advisors about this trade.
If Trump is successful in negotiating more favorable terms with our trading partners, but we're all paying insanely higher prices for these products, what have we gained from that? How am I actually benefiting from these more favorable terms? Isn't that what we're talking about? Isn't the point of free trade is to like greatly increase the amount of cheap goods that people can afford? If I can't afford the things that are being made, regardless of trade conditions or specific terms, then I'm not benefiting from that
situation and this formula they're applying. You already see a tension between Musk and Navarro.
That's right. And that's not it. There's been mixed messages from different aides. Some that are saying, that they do want negotiations. The White House.
It'll trickle down. It'll trickle down eventually, guys.
The formula is instinct. Yeah, he's just gonna go like Trump's just gonna go with vibes. Yeah, which companies are you gonna give the breaks to? I don't know. I'll just know.
I don't think it's that. I think he will provide breaks for people if he feels like it's politically expedient to do so. So if he wants to shore up support amongst trade unions or specific industries, then he will exempt them or give them subsidies to offset the losses from the tariffs. Is he going to give a commentary on this? Like, is that good or bad, do you think? That seems bad to me. To have a president directly putting their thumb on the scales when it benefits them. Like personally choosing winners and losers in an economy. That sounds like a planned economy. That sounds like a centrally planned economy. That sounds communist to me, god damn it.
Yeah, ultra instinct, I know.
70 governments around that have come to the White House looking to start conversations at the same time. Really, the person who matters the most is Trump and what he wants to do. And there's been plenty of comments of him digging his heels in as well. I wrote a piece weeks ago when the initial tariff threat against Mexico and Canada went out, saying that sometimes the tariffs don't seem to be a means to an end. They seem to be an end for the president as well.
How do you see it?
Well, but this is also the difference between running a business and running a country, right? Because the politics of this are, okay, we're going to start negotiating with 70. Start. How long is that going to take? Is that months?
Apparently 1 day. Yep.
Hold on.
To be an end for the president as well.
How do you see it?
Well, but this is also the difference between running a business and running a country, right? Because the politics of this are, okay, we're going to start negotiating with 70. Start. How long is that going to take? Is that months?
Apparently 1 day. Yep.
I don't even understand. Asmon's premise seems to be that Trump has already successfully renegotiated. Isn't that kind of what he's saying? Like, he already did it, bro. It only took 1 day for him to get better deals. What better deals? Am I misinterpreting what he's saying? It seems like he's putting the cart well before the horse here.
Yep. All right. Well,
suck it, libs. He already got there. What are you talking about? What deals are you talking about?
That's okay. Surprise. The experts are dumb. This is why you never listen to experts about this kind of stuff, bro. Like, these people don't know what the they're talking about. If they did, they'd be making tons of money. Are these people billionaires? No, then they don't understand the stock market as much as they think they do. Again, my mindset, yeah, Kevin is. Well, Kevin still got hoodwinked by Sam. Remember that? But besides that, yeah, one of them is, yeah. I've said before, always look at outcomes. If a person inside of a field thinks that they're an expert, but they do not create expert level outcome.
And talk about poorly aged. And now the markets are poised to close around -4% for the NASDAQ, -2.5% for the Dow, -3.4% for the S&P 500. So his premature victory lap. I honestly don't know what he thinks Trump has accomplished. It seems like he thinks like Trump got some big win. I don't know what that win is. I have no idea what he thinks is going on here.
Then they're not an expert. period.
Okay, I think he's trolling here. I think, right?
Person inside of a field thinks that they're an expert, but they do not create expert level outcomes, then they're not an expert. Period. That's it.
Is that the rest of the year? Then we're into the midterm season. And if you're a Republican member of Congress and you are hearing from your constituents who are saying, look, now we're in a recession. Now my prices are even higher than before. Why haven't you stood up to the president? Then they're going to put them in a real bind. And the one thing, the kind of pushback for Trump is he doesn't care because he's not running again. But if he wants to keep his majorities in the House and Senate, his team at least understands you better have a plan. There better be a plan to, are the tariffs a means to an end, or are they the end game? And what are we going to
the midterms don't happen for 2 years. Like, this is going to be wrapped up in probably a year to 18 months.
Oh, we got to clip this. We got to make sure we archive this one, guys. I want to revisit this clip in a year and a half when we get to these midterms. Because if Trump, it doesn't matter. If Trump fully backs off the tariffs, let's just make it up and say a month, 2 months from now. But Americans are still enduring the consequences of those tariffs because businesses right now are reacting to the instability by taking extraordinary measures, maybe doing massive layoffs. They really don't know how to react right now because there is so much uncertainty, and that will be reflected in jobs numbers and the price of these goods and services. And it's going to ripple for months or maybe even past a year. And, let's say everything stabilizes a year from now. Let's just, create a hypothetical. Everything is kind of quote unquote back to normal. There's no more trade war shit. We're kind of just back to what we were doing before. People aren't going to forget that year, like inflation was already like basically resolved by the time we got to the November election back in 2024. And nevertheless, voters still punished the Democratic Party because there was a perception that it was Democratic policy that caused the inflation to begin with.
So, like, if Trump, like, this is a really big gamble, but if Trump wins this gamble and he comes out ahead with the tariffs, especially if he goes through with this, like, I saw people talking about this, there's a chance Trump might be getting rid of the income tax.
No, there's not. Stop it. Stop. What do you mean? If you wanted to do that, you'd either have to get rid of the filibuster or you'd need to convince every single Republican senator plus 7 Democrats to get rid of the income tax. Is that what he thinks is going to happen, guys?
to be saying?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Keep our majorities if we want to keep.
Wait, what?
If he goes through with this, like, I saw people talking about this, there's a chance Trump might be getting rid of the income tax.
To be saying,
I don't think it's going to happen.
Keep our majorities if we want to keep.
Obviously not going to happen.
Enacting this regime.
Yeah, and let me go back. We'll watch this later. But anyway, yeah, as it should. Exactly. And so never happening. Well, we don't know if it's going to happen or not. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to be honest. I really don't. But this is one thing about it.
You couldn't do that through budget reconciliation, meaning that, you know, the bill would be subject to the filibuster rules in the Senate, which means you would have to get 7 Democrats to, and again, perfect unanimity with the Republicans. Does he think that that's going to happen? Does he think that that's actually possible?
It is that if, and this is what I've said before about a lot of things, is that it's all about bringing home the bacon. If people's lives are better in 2026 than they are right now, people will vote for Republicans and Trump and like his ideology again. And if they're worse, they won't vote for him. That's it. That's the reason why he lost during COVID. You know, and again, oh no, he didn't lose. Guys, look, it's funny to hear him say it, but I think I was surprised he didn't lose by more, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's the economy. Exactly. Yes, majority rules, of course.
Some more top tier analysis from our pal Asmongold. We expect quality from him, and that's what we get.